what I want to make sure is that whenever I do a strong transition, so usually that means bringing the form in, I should start off with a level surface. Again, because when I'm building, I am building my form and it is being built in a coil upward. So one side is always slightly higher than the other. If I don't level it out, when I continue building inward, I will automatically have the opening or the shape of it being skewed really to one side. So it's super important to level it out. So there's about a million ways to do this, and again, if you don't want to go over to the potter's wheel, you don't have to. I decided on my picture that my widest point here was going to be 7.5 inches in height. But because, remember, my base was a little bit higher because of the way it was built, I decided to go to 8.5. So I can also just put a ruler up to my piece and make multiple marks of where 8.5 is, and then slowly cut the piece down. You can also use your fettling knife. That's a simple way if you don't feel confident going over to the wheel because you're worried about it flinging off or anything. So you could just modify it and do it this way. So remember, whenever I add a new coil, I want to make sure that I score and slip. Just going to score and slip the top. What I always do is I'm looking at the top, the last rung of the coil, so the one that's exposed. What I'm looking at right now is that there's a flat area that's directly on top, there's an exterior edge, and there's an interior edge. If I want to start building inward, I will direct my next coil to the interior edge of the coil underneath it. So when I add this coil, notice that you're not really able to see that, are you? You see, can you see that? That is more directed. Okay, that fell. All right. I'm just gonna add it and have you guys look at it then. Now mine goes in very quickly. So even as I add it to the next layer above, I'm adding it to that interior edge. So I'm forcing it in this way. Now the other thing I do is that I'm going to use my fingers to really compress those coils together. Blend this nicely. So the opposite would exist. If I wanted to make the form wider, I would add the coil to the exterior edge. Now, that does not mean that it's all the way to the exterior. If it is a gradual increase or a gradual decrease, that doesn't mean every single time you put it at the very edge. You have to think about the shape that you're trying to make. So if I want it to slowly expand, well then the coil is going to go a little bit to the edge, a little bit more, a little bit more. But most of it is through me correcting the position of the coil after I put it on by refining it, pressing it with my fingers, using my rib tool. At no point, especially with a really strong transition, am I just quickly adding coils and then being like, well, I'm going to fix it later. I'm going to make sure as I'm going that the form is staying correct. So again, I can't really encourage you enough to blend coils as you work, fix issues prior to it becoming a big issue. Notice as well that when I'm using my rib tool, I am supporting here, but notice the position of my hand. I'm making sure that I'm putting some pressure with this rib tool to move inward, right? I'm not using it like this. I'm not pushing out with this hand. I'm starting to create the form and working it into that form even after I build it.